Hello everyone and welcome back to Dragalia Foundry, a fan channel where everything Dragalia Lost can be found. This video is going to contain my look at this month in Dragalia Lost for the month of April. If you're not aware, that's where the game's director, Okada, talks to us about what's to come for the month ahead, and also often teases things about the future of Dragalia Lost as a whole. Of course, since it's April 1st, our Void Battle treasure trades, or Astral Raid treasure trades have reset and you can collect new rewards from those. And just yesterday, our monthly Alberian Battle Royale treasure trade reset as well, so you can get new rewards from the Battle Royale. More important than any of that, though, is what's shown on screen right now. You see him strutting along, looking happy as can be. Pupper has made his triumphant return to Dragalia Lost. So I'm thrilled that Wagabond Pupper is back. It released last year on April Fools, and it is back as a permanent mode where basically you just go in with up to 4 adventures and 4 dragons and just take pictures with the Pupper and get to play with him. So I'm super pumped that Wagabond Pupper was not forgotten. And speaking of not, well, you can see who's walking alongside him. So in case you missed it, yesterday I posted a Battle Royale video where I actually got Not off of my free daily tenfold summon. So I'm extremely fortunate right now. This is the last day where she's going to be featured on her gala banner. So this is your time to summon if you're watching this the day I release it. And going forward, we're going to have a new banner, which we'll discuss in part in this video. So let's go ahead and get into this month in Dragalia Lost. I'm going to click in here to the notice board post, and obviously there's a lot of other news relating to the Pupper, including a screenshot sharing event where there's a contest on Twitter where you can share your screenshot. So I definitely encourage you to participate. It's just for fun, but there's some really awesome screenshots. I'll try share mine on screen now. Hopefully I remember. Otherwise, look in the description for a link to Twitter where you can check them out. But randomly, 6 people are going to be chosen to win 25,000 Wormite, which is really, really sweet. And all you have to do is tweet out a picture of the Pupper from the event. So that's pretty awesome. And otherwise, we get info about the new showcase. We know that the Pupper event is now live permanently, here and forever after. And yeah, the shops have reset, that sort of thing. A version update to fix some bugs. We do have Nightmare and Omega available now. Let's click into this month in Dragalia Lost before we go any further. Alright, so as always, Director Okada thanks us for playing Dragalia Lost, which is enjoying its 2.5-year anniversary thanks to the passion and support of players like us. I'm excited to bring you the latest news on what's happening in and around the game this month. So first off, we get our usual recaps here. So starting with Dawn of Dragalia, what would a half anniversary be without a lore-heavy raid event to go along with it? On the eve of the game's second year and a half, the Dawn of Dragalia event spins a 300-year-old tale of the legendary hero Alberius. Along the way, he's joined by his allies, including Midgard-Sormr, this time in human form. You can play through the event to add the adventurer humanoid Midgard-Sormr to your roster. You'll also meet the adventurer Miriam, who appears alongside Gala Not in a Gala Dragalia going on now. Yes, you read that right. Not has finally become a playable adventurer. She has a unique shapeshift called Metamorphosis that replaces the Dragon Gauge, effectively allowing her to fight in 2 different forms. After playing Spectator for so long, the fairy is eager to fight for her friends. Alright, so Miriam, as it turns out, we now know what the amp does. It just seems okay, but it seems explicitly designed to work around Curse of Nihility, the debuff found in the Sinister Dominion quest, so that may be where she ends up shining the most. But so far, humanoid Midgard-Sormr and Gala Not both have really impressed me. I feel very lucky I was able to get Gala Not off my free summons, and she ended up being just as good as I thought, but a little bit more technical and a little bit more challenging to play, I would say, as well. When it comes to her big form, it's not an obvious thing that you always want to go into and spend a lot of time in, because you want to stay in your regular form to accumulate combos and dispel. When you go into your big form, you get bigger AoEs. It's good for clearing out stuff like the Raptors in Legend Ciela. It also can apply Stormlash, but her playstyle ends up being more of a mix between the two, I would say. But excellent adventure, and humanoid mids, I did a showcase video on since I got him earlier, obviously by playing the event. he has also just really impressed me. I can't believe he's a welfare adventurer, so I really love them. These are the two characters I wanted the most. I'm not going to be summoning any further for Miriam, but maybe if we're lucky one day, we'll pick her up down the road. Alright, so next up, the Wagabond Pupper event is back for good. Everyone's favorite doggo returned to the Halidom on April 1st. This event was live for only a single day last year, but it's back for good this time with some improvements to boot. Now you can invite dragons on walks alongside adventurers, and what's more, you can invite up to 4 of each of your favorites at a time. There's some new photo effects, you can use an on-screen slider to strengthen the effects, and you can use it to spice up your screenshots or emphasize the focus of the image. Players are very rarely given an opportunity to control the camera themselves, so we hope those of you with a passion for sharing your screenshots on social media will have a lot of fun finding the perfect shot to post. In fact, we're holding a Twitter event to encourage players to do just that, so check the official Dragalia Lost Twitter accounts for more details and get those digital shutters snapping. Awesome. I think it's so cool. Like, you've seen all the different theme teams that people are posting. It actually is kind of sweet. If you have multiples of a dragon, you can actually utilize them. It doesn't matter the stats or anything. It just matters how adorable or how sweet or cool your picture is. So I love seeing what's coming out of this. I've seen one where like Musashi and Thaniel, I think, are fishing, and there's like 4 leviathans, which is pretty great. There's all sorts of cool pictures out there right now. There's one with like all the great worms kind of lined up along with the pupper, and it looks like some of the official artwork, except instead of one of the great worms, the pupper is there in its place. There's really, really cool stuff coming out of this, so I love this. It's available permanently, so you can always go back in when you get new adventures or when you have some ideas about what you want to create there. It is a little bit unwieldy to do the camera work, I have to say, because sometimes you want to do pictures with like a lot of dragons, but you don't necessarily want the adventures in the picture, but the camera perspective depends on where your adventures are placed, and it's kind of finicky to like get everybody exactly how you want them. But I can forgive and overlook all of that for more pupper modes and more time with the pupper. So I think it's awesome. Of course, he's in the Dragon's Roost today. I don't know if he's going to stay there or not, or if that's just a today thing. You can get a pupper sticker as well if you don't already have it. If you do have it, you're going to get some wormites. And even if you're not interested in this mode at all, go clear the quest. You do get 25 wormite. And who knows, when you go in, you might just find yourself getting attached. So yeah, I'm really glad this came back. A little surprised we didn't get a brand new April Fool's event, but with how well this was received last year, I'm not that surprised that it's made its return. Okay, so next up, plans for this month. The adventure Alberius and dragon Chthonius will be featured in a prize showcase starting on April 2nd. For further details, including their stats, check out the summon showcase notification when it's posted. So let's go check that out, and then we'll continue reading on. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I still may make a separate Should You Summon video after I learn a little bit more about how these characters work in context. Certainly you should summon. We still have some free daily tenfolds, so certainly do those, and then I would wait to see what the next showcase is before making a hard decision on this. Obviously, Alberius and Chthonius are just awesome. They're really epic characters. I love that they gave Chthonius a high dragon form. I feel like he's so deserving of that. He's kind of the forgotten great worm, being the 6th one and not being really featured prominently in the present day. So I think that this is righting a wrong here with Chthonius, how he was so often overlooked in the past. And Alberius just looks so good. I mean, look at this background artwork with all the different great worms. That is super sweet. So from that perspective, I'm not going to fault anybody for summoning on this. I kind of want to summon on this just for that very reason. But when I'm looking at this and thinking ahead to future content, particularly the Sinister Dominion, there are some things, especially with Chthonius, that I'm a little unsure of. When it comes to Alberius, I have no hesitation. With Alberius, his skills basically shapeshift him while the skill is being used. So the first one, Circlet Dawn, he takes the form of Chthonius. Deals damage to the target nearby enemies, inflicts Shadow Blight, and then goes back into his original form. And apparently this is affected by abilities like Dragon Damage, so this could potentially be very good with the right worm print setup. I think that that's really strong, and it also interacts with some of his actual personal abilities too. The second skill he has, he becomes High Midgard Stormer. That one can cause stun, it raises the Dragon Gauge, and then you return to your original form. His co-abilities are Dragon Haste and Shadow Dragon Damage. If you're a Forte fan, Lathna, Audric, for a lot of different adventures, this Dragon Damage might be beneficial. You know, maybe for Audric not as much, because Audric already has the regular Dragon Haste co-ability, but any character that's going to want to ram into dragons and the Shadow element, this is a possible consideration. And then for abilities, Shapeshift Prep and Dragon Defense, 25% Dragon Gauge at the start of quests. Outside of Ramiel, nothing else provides that amount of Shapeshift Prep to start off a quest. So in combination with Ramiel, now you can, on a solo team, start with 100% Shapeshift Prep if you want to. I suppose you already could with Audric and like 4 Shapeshift Prep Wormprints. But this should make it a little bit easier as far as your Wormprint requirements. You also get extra defense, which I think that should apply when you're using your dragon skills as well. So usually defense in dragon form doesn't matter a whole lot, except for adventurers who actually take damage while they're in a special transformation, but it can extend your shapeshift duration, so it's not a bad thing. And then for blindness res here, that's okay. A little weird he didn't get dual res like Ilya did. And then Dragon's Fierce Roll 2, this is good. Grants the user's attacks the ability to dispel one enemy buff when in dragon form. And the great thing about this is, when it says here regarding Alberius' skills, when Alberius is in the form of High Chthonius during his skill or High Midgard Stormer's form, he is affected by his Shapeshift Prep and Dragon Defense, so he does get extra defense. He is affected by Dragon Damage, and he is affected by Dragon's Fierce Rule. So even if you're just using these skills and not shapeshifting into a dragon in the proper way, so to speak, you still get Dispel on that, which is awesome. You need a lot of Dispel against Kaiyan, so Alberius already seems well suited for that content. If you haven't been able to clear Legend Kaiyan, I'm sure he can clear comfortably. But then when you move on here to High Chthonius, despite this really awesome looking artwork, High Chthonius is the one that I'm less sure about. His skill can inflict Shadow Blight. He has this High Dragon's Might 5 and Strength, 65% Strength, and when you shapeshift up to twice per quest, each time you do so, you're going to get an extra 20% Strength. The thing to note about that is it's a visible buff icon. In combat, or visible buffs where they appear in the GUI, those are in a different bracket than this passive 65% Strength that you don't actually see on the screen. That's just part of your character's gear going into the quest. And so, in general, that's a positive thing to have those in 2 different brackets, but unfortunately for something like Sinister Dominion, because of the Curse of Nihility, that's actually potentially a negative here, where this might not work. And unless it's some kind of special icon, presumably it won't work unless it maybe has an exception to it. A little bit hard to say with this being before the release of the banner, but probably won't work. And furthermore, a lot of times in contexts where it will work, you already have a lot of buffs in that bracket thanks to Patya. So I think that he might have actually been better had this essentially added to the 65% amount. So that nuance actually could hurt High Chthonius basically. And even though this is a really nice iteration and improvement over regular Chthonius, it's kind of weird that they're both in the permanent pool now, by the way. But unfortunately, I think that he may not have a future in Sinister Dominion. For Kaiyan, yes, and for Sinister Dominion, probably not. One thing that will work likely is this max HP buff that has been working so far against Lilith, and you get this when you shapeshift for the second time, so a little bit of extra survival element. I'm glad that they threw the HP in there, since that is kind of a characteristic of the High Dragons. They do provide some kind of HP as well as some strength. Obviously no dragon time this time around, and he's not a welfare dragon like the other High Dragons, so I don't know if this means that the door is closed on a High Chthonius' trial, but I would still love to see that if that's a possibility. Anyway, that's my quick take on the banner. If need be, I may make a more formal review. It looks like a good banner, but right now there's not any hard light element bosses on the horizon. There is the potential. Yaldabaoth is our next Sinister Dominion boss, and we're presuming right now that it's going to start off with a water element boss, because Yaldabaoth possessed Gabrielle. Gabrielle is water element, just like Lilith possessed Ramiel, and Ramiel was shadow, and so is Lilith. So we're assuming right now phase 1 of Yaldabaoth is going to be water, which would favor wind adventures. We don't know about phase 2 in Master after team change, so it's possible phase 2 could be a light element boss where you want to bring shadow adventures. So maybe some difficult content for shadow adventures besides Kayan is coming up shortly here, but right now that's not clear. And so for that reason, I would say this banner, just from a flavor standpoint, is awesome. From a gameplay standpoint, it's probably more than we're going to need as far as firepower at the moment. Alright, so moving along here, a new series of quests, Trials of the Mighty, will debut on April 7th. You'll be challenged with taking on various bosses with a team of one or more predetermined elements and weapon types. Clear these quests to earn rewards from the daily bonus, like materials for unlocking the mana spiral of certain adventures, nature's blessings, and fortifying dragon scales. So notably, they don't mention amplifying dragon scales. I guess that unfortunately means this is not going to be a way to get extra strength augments for dragons, just HP augments. If you miss out on earning a daily bonus, you'll be able to earn them retroactively for up to 3 days, so don't fret if you need to miss a day or two of playing. That said, please keep in mind that the reward from each daily bonus depends on the boss who is available to battle on that particular day. Additional bosses will be available in the future, and existing bosses will make routine appearances. So I'm curious how many bosses they're going to roll out to start. I would like to see 5, 1 for every weekday, and have them all available on weekends. But realistically, I'm thinking it's going to be more like 3 bosses to start off with. And as far as the challenge level, I kind of think that this is going to be between High Dragons and Agito, or maybe even between Void Battles and High Dragons. Personally, I'm not expecting this to be particularly hard. I feel like this is more supplemental content to help players power up toward the end game. That's my take on it, just from what I've seen. But I could be wrong. Maybe the hardest difficulties of this will be genuinely challenging. So reading along here, materials for unlocking mana spirals will be available from the daily bonus in April for certain Gala Dragalia adventures, so only certain of them, not all of them, and said materials for additional adventures, including those without a Gala Dragalia version, will be available in the future. Aha, so future mana spirals that are not even Gala mana spirals might also be handled through the system. Maybe an explanation for why we haven't seen a lot of mana spirals lately. Either way, I think that this is going to be welcome to power up some past Gala adventures. I think they're actually fairly well balanced as of now. Like, a lot of them, with a few exceptions, have at least some type of niche where they're pretty powerful. Young Ranzal has been shredding Legend Ciela already, so if he happens to be one of the ones to get a mana spiral, he's going to be very, very good, especially if they throw Dispel onto what he's already doing. Then he might be in the ballpark of just like a better Gala Knot for that content. So Young Ranzal strikes me as one who doesn't really need it right now. Gala Elisan, I think she kind of needs it, mostly from a Lilith standpoint, but not really from a twin standpoint. She just needs to do something, or maybe make her buff special instead of just being a generic strength buff. That way it doesn't get countered by Curse of Nihility. That would be a pretty nice little nod to players who have found the curse to be a little bit overbearing. And otherwise, I think Gala Cerise, to me, is the character that needs the power-up the most. And I say that completely unbiased, of course, but seriously, I do think she kind of needs the power-up the most. So we'll see who ends up getting it. I think in the Dragalia Digest, they showed Gala Yuden, Gala Ellie, and Gala Ranzal. So those might be the first 3. But if it is them, I'll definitely go in and do the quest because I want to see what it's all about. And they're characters that I use occasionally, but not too often. But I still want to try power them up. And especially if this is tied to dailies, like, if you can do it, why not go ahead and get those materials? And hopefully it's mostly those materials that are farmable and not too reliant upon outside materials like Champion's Testaments, which could end up being a bottleneck otherwise. But we'll see exactly how it's handled pretty soon here. All right, so this next one just really surprised me. An Onslaught event will start on April 12th, and it looks like this Rough Rider Ranzal is going back to school. Hopefully it doesn't end up in detention for too long. Yes, this is Young Ranzal. Look at his shorts. Look at the plaid pattern and the vest, the little tie, I guess, or I don't know if that's an ascot. I mean, what is going on? This young, noble, scrawny Ranzal feels so funny to me. It's very cute, of course, and I guess he's summonable. So a couple different possibilities, maybe it's a flashback event. I'll tell you my dream scenario, which this may already be debunked for people who know the story better than I do, but what I imagine with this is we go back to Ranzal's childhood in Saint Latier. We're learning about his relationship with Zacharias and him being kind of like, a difficult, a tough father, and Ranzal kind of wanting to rebel out and find his own path. And who sets him on a righteous path but none other than Mama Mercury? Because we know Saint Latier is kind of her stomping grounds. Could we see human Mercury make an appearance in this event? I really hope so. I really hope that she is like the motherly influence that Ranzal needs. And here's where I think things could take a turn. Maybe the reason that Ranzal has such a beef with the nobility is that Emil shows up, baby Emil shows up, and because he's a higher degree of royalty, he just gets whatever he wants. And he sees Mercury, and he's like, that's going to be my dragon. I'm going to take that dragon for myself, taking away Ranzal's surrogate dragon mom. I know that this is basically debunked based on what happens in the main campaign, but that is my fanfic theory about young Ranzal's life and his first encounter with Emil and them fighting over best mom Mercury. So that's my hope for this event, but we'll see. The other possibility besides a flashback is some type of de-aging shenanigans or time travel, something like that. Maybe Sonoa or Kleiman, one of their experiments goes wrong. Maybe Cassandra as well. She's a character who dabbles in time magic and age magic. So maybe something goes wrong. Ranzal ends up as a little kid, and but he's actually still an adult. That could also make for a very fun event. And looks like an Onslaught event also, just to point out, like, it seems like maybe we're not going to get the Colosseum event. That was just special for the new year, because otherwise this would have been the month that we had Colosseum, and then we had Onslaught, and then Defensive. And so this would have been Colosseum again, but since it's Onslaught, I guess that Colosseum thing was a one-off for New Year's. Alright, so let's continue reading. This is another surprise. A time attack challenges event pitting you up against shadow-attuned enemies will be held in late April. This is kind of wild to me, because the pattern of time attack so far has always been that it's the element of the previous month's Legend Agito. So for example, when we got Legend Volk the following month, the time attack had wind enemies including Volk. And then when we got Legend Kai the following month, the time attack had light enemies including Kai. So I was expecting this month's time attack to feature Ciela. And instead, we're going to be fighting shadow-attuned enemies. I don't know exactly what that means yet, but I think one possibility here might be that we're fighting against Lilith. It's also possible they design something custom for time attack. It's also possible they decide, let's make it Tartarus. Let's mix up the order and not relate it necessarily to the Legend Agito. So whoever we're battling against, I'm pretty pumped that it's not the expected pattern. That's going to make this pretty fun and pretty exciting. Time attack, it's always just good rewards, even if you're not chasing the best times for the epithets and the bragging rights. It's also just fun to watch the community and see like what strategies they're developing and what they're doing. So I found it interesting as an observer, more so than a participant, but I like the time attack challenges now. I think they're being handled well. Okay, so part 1 of chapter 19 of the main campaign will be added in late April. With the way to the Fairy Kingdom unbarred, the mystery surrounding the prince will continue to unravel in parts 1 and 2 of the chapter. Okay, so not a lot of info there, but as I've said in past videos, what I think is going to happen, we're going to see the twins. The twins are going to have some type of encounter with Laxi and Mascula, and Agni will show up and be our next Scala Dragon. That's my expectation. As revealed with the latest Dragalia Digest, an event featuring Vania and another adventure and dragon from the Rage of Bahamut game will be held at the end of April. So I was very relieved by hearing this in the Dragalia Digest. I'm not familiar with Rage of Bahamut very much. I don't know who Vania is. I don't know who else to expect from this. The reason I was relieved by this in the digest was just the Wormite situation. Like a collab at the end of April, a full collab where we have limited units would have really broken the bank, I would say. So this being a Cygames crossover event, sort of like Princess Connect, I think there's a good chance that Vania isn't limited, and same thing with other Adventure and Dragon who appear. Now, we may be surprised, but we've had Albert, Forte, we've had Urias, Lily. There's a lot of characters that appear in Cygames' other franchises who have been added to the permanent summoning pool, Pecorine. So I'm hoping that's the case for Vania. That will make me feel a lot more comfortable with my stash right now. And it still looks like a pretty interesting character and interesting event. So if you know more about this, leave a comment and I'd love to check it out. But I don't really know much else to say about Vania. All right, so future updates. I think that this is our last big topic for today. So first of all, a feature to automatically unlock mana nodes. Second, a feature to upgrade your Halidom from 1 page. Still no word on a Halidom expansion though, but a feature to upgrade things from 1 page and manage it more easily is kind of nice. Players will be able to see the teams that have beaten high difficulty quests, including Advanced Dragon Trials and the Agito Uprising. You'll be able to see the combinations of Adventurous Dragon Swarm Crits that other players have found most effective, and use these hints to put together a successful team and strategy of your own. At first I wasn't sure what to think of this, because I think it might lead to more homogeneity across what people are using for the endgame. But I do think that there's a steeper barrier to entry than sometimes I appreciate as an endgame player. There are a lot of longtime fans of Dragalia Lost who don't check out or play endgame content at all. And maybe one of the reasons is that it can be hard to build a good team in Dragalia Lost. Now we have up to 7 Wormprint slots, we have all sorts of different dragons, we have the Agito weapons, but you have to think about what type of shared skills you want to use. So there's a lot that goes into building a team, and maybe at the end of the day, this quality of life feature is going to allow some players who would have never tried out the endgame to actually give it a try, and for that, I applaud it. We will iterate on the functionality of Knott's notes over time. For starters, we plan to add a feature that allows you to easily identify the adventurers whom you have used to clear high difficulty quests, as well as a feature that allows you to revisit past story scenes. Super cool. So Knott's notes, a little bit bare bone to start off with, mostly about the stats, I would say. This as a first update to see which adventures you've cleared high difficulty quests with, I think is pretty cool. That's going to be fun to look at like different endgame content and just see like, who did I actually beat this with? And I don't know if it'll be retroactive necessarily. I hope it is. But if it's not, then it'll be a fun challenge to potentially fill out the Pokedex, so to speak, of clearing difficult content with all sorts of adventures. Okay, so a couple things left. Main story chapters, up to and including Chapter 21, will continue to be released in halves each month. As the prince and friends delve deeper and deeper into the Fairy Kingdom, more and more mysteries stand to be revealed. Look forward to seeing new faces and more as the story soldiers on. And then those of you who missed the opportunity to recruit Alphonse or Sharina to your roster will be happy to learn that the Fire Emblem Lost Heroes and Fire Emblem Kindred Ties events will be made available in the event compendium to enjoy at any time in solo play. That is sweet. They are good free characters. Maybe they will throw Sharina a mana spiral as well, since Alphonse does have one. But just the fact that they're available to all players, Light is actually one of the weaker elements as far as the welfare tutorial adventures that you get. Luca and Mordecai are very good, but the pool is pretty shallow after that. So having Alphonse and Sharina added to the mix is super nice. Light didn't get that many mana spirals, so a lot of the free 3 stars you get just aren't quite that strong right now. And that's one of the reasons I'm most excited about this, outside of the fact that players who miss these actually get a chance to experience them for the first time. Especially Kindred Ties, that Colosseum mode, that is a really fun mode to have in the compendium available on a permanent basis. So I'm really happy with this solution to the Fire Emblem events, just because it's a lot of content. And I think having a full month of Fire Emblem events on the calendar, we could get a little tired of the defensive battles. This seems like a good way to go about things, where they'll be available to play anytime that you want to at your own leisure. And I think that is it for this month in Dragalia Lost. So the final remark from Okada is just about a special gift. 25,000 Eldwater, love to see it. A Champion's Testament 2-pack, also very great and much appreciated. That is going to do it for today, though, everyone. So I'd love to hear in the comments below what you're most excited about for this month in Dragalia Lost for April 2021. Thank you as always for watching. Take care, and I'll see you next time.